Have you ever felt like the person you love might be with you for all the wrong reasons? It's a gnawing feeling I can't shake off lately. Every time I open my wallet, I question whether it's for love or just another transaction. My girlfriend, once a vibrant partner in crime, now seems more interested in my credit card than our conversations. Is this just a rough patch, or am I being used as her personal ATM? Join me as I navigate the murky waters of love, trust, and financial boundaries. I'm a 28-year-old guy working as a software developer in a bustling tech company. Life was pretty straightforward until a year ago when I met Emily at a mutual friend's party. She was charming, full of life, and we hit it off instantly. Fast forward to today, we've been together for about 8 months, and on the surface everything seems perfect. Yet, beneath that facade, there's a lingering discomfort I can't ignore. Emily is a freelance graphic designer, and when we met, she was candid about the unstable nature of her income. At first, I admired her hustle and creativity, and I was more than willing to support her dreams whenever I could. But over time, her requests for financial help have increased, both in frequency and scale. It started innocently enough, covering dinner bills, then helping with her rent, and now it's paying for her car repairs and occasional emergency expenses. Initially, I brushed off my concerns, attributing them to the natural ebbs and flows of a relationship. However, the more I reflect on our interactions, the more I notice a pattern. My initial feelings of excitement and joy are being overshadowed by doubt and confusion. Am I just imagining things, or is there a genuine shift in our relationship dynamics? In my gut, there's an unsettling worry that I'm being taken advantage of, but the fear of confrontation and the potential fallout keep me silent. I've always prided myself on being generous, but at what point does generosity become naivety? As I wrestle with these questions, I hope to gain clarity and perhaps advice from those who've been in similar shoes. As the months rolled on, the financial strain started to become more noticeable. At first, it was just a feeling, a little nagging thought at the back of my mind, but soon it became something I couldn't ignore. Emily's requests for help seemed to escalate with every passing week, and the reasons behind them became increasingly vague. One evening, as I sat down to review my monthly expenses, I realized just how much I had been spending. It was an eye-opener, to say the least. Then, the curveball hit. I was called into a surprise meeting at work where our manager announced a company-wide restructuring. While I managed to keep my job, my salary was temporarily reduced by 20% as part of a new cost-saving strategy. The news was a shock to my system. Suddenly, the financial cushion I had relied on wasn't as plush as it used to be. I remember feeling a wave of panic, a cold sweat breaking out as I tried to process what this meant for both my personal life and my relationship with Emily. I decided it was time to talk to Emily about tightening our belts, hoping she would understand the situation and maybe even suggest ways to cut back. But when I broached the topic, her reaction was not what I expected. She seemed distant, almost dismissive of the financial bind I was in. "We'll figure it out," she said, brushing off my concerns with a wave of her hand. Her lack of empathy stung more than I anticipated. The stress of it all began to weigh heavily on me. I found myself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with what-ifs. What if my financial situation worsened? What if Emily's reliance on me grew even more? What if I was just a means to an end for her? The anxiety was relentless, gnawing at the edges of my peace of mind. My stress levels skyrocketed, and it started affecting other areas of my life. I became irritable at work, snapping at colleagues for minor issues. Friends began to notice my absence from social gatherings, and when they asked, I didn't have the energy to explain the turmoil I was experiencing. Emily, on the other hand, seemed oblivious to the growing chasm between us. Every conversation about finances turned into an uncomfortable dance around the subject, leaving me more frustrated than before. I felt trapped in a cycle I couldn't break, a cycle where my emotions were bottled up and my fears were dismissed as irrational. This unexpected turn of events forced me to confront the reality of our relationship dynamics. I was now faced with the daunting task of figuring out how to address these issues without causing irreparable damage to what we had built together. Determined to find a resolution, I decided to tackle the issue head-on. The first step was to open a line of communication with Emily, hoping we could align our financial goals and expectations. I scheduled a dinner at home, my attempt to create a relaxed environment where we could talk openly without distractions. As we sat down, I approached the topic gently, explaining the impact of my reduced salary and the need for us to manage our expenses more carefully, I suggested setting up a budget together, one that could account for both our needs and help us plan for unexpected costs. To my surprise, Emily seemed receptive at first, nodding along and even offering to look for more freelance work to ease the burden. For a moment, I felt a sense of relief, thinking that perhaps this was the breakthrough I needed. But as days turned into weeks, I noticed little change. Our conversations remained superficial, and her financial requests persisted, albeit with a slight pause. The budget we had discussed was forgotten, overshadowed by the daily grind. Feeling stuck, I decided to seek advice from a close friend, hoping for a fresh perspective. Over coffee, I laid out my concerns, half expecting him to tell me I was overthinking it. Instead, he suggested couples counseling, a neutral space where we could discuss our issues with professional guidance. It seemed like a reasonable next step, and I was ready to propose it to Emily. However, before I could broach the topic, the second curveball struck. Emily informed me of a sudden family emergency. Her mother had fallen ill, requiring immediate care and financial support. The news was devastating, and my heart went out to her. But the timing couldn't have been worse, adding another layer of complexity to our already strained finances. This new challenge left me torn between empathy and the realization that I couldn't continue ignoring my own financial stability. I wanted to be there for Emily, yet I feared being further entangled in a cycle of financial dependency. My attempts to resolve our issues seemed to be hitting a brick wall, compounded by circumstances beyond my control. With each effort thwarted by new challenges, the path forward became increasingly unclear. I found myself questioning not just the dynamics of our relationship, but also my own boundaries and limits. It was time to reevaluate what I truly wanted and needed, not just for Emily, but for myself. The emotional toll of this ongoing issue has been profound, seeping into every facet of my life. What began as a subtle unease has evolved into a constant source of anxiety. Each day feels like a balancing act, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy while grappling with the weight of unresolved tensions. In my relationship with Emily, a palpable distance has formed. Our once frequent laughter and shared dreams have dwindled, replaced by a series of strained conversations and unspoken frustrations. The warmth that defined our early days together feels like a distant memory, replaced by a chilling uncertainty. I find myself avoiding opportunities for deeper connection, fearful of confronting the growing divide between us. Socially, I've become more isolated. The vibrant social life I once enjoyed has dimmed. I often decline invitations from friends, lacking the energy to feign happiness or explain the complexities of my situation. When I do muster the courage to attend gatherings, I feel like an outsider, watching life unfold around me while I remain trapped in my own worries. My friends, unaware of the turmoil beneath my surface, sense the change, but remain unsure how to help. At work, the stress has impacted my performance. Tasks that once seemed routine now feel monumental, my concentration shattered by intrusive thoughts of financial strain and relationship woes. My productivity has suffered, and while my colleagues have been supportive, I can't shake the fear that my struggles are becoming apparent to management. Internally, a storm of conflicting emotions rages. I oscillate between guilt for doubting Emily's intentions and frustration at my perceived naivety. The hope that we can overcome these hurdles battles with a growing sense of hopelessness. How long can I continue living like this, caught in a cycle of unresolved problems and emotional fatigue? Everyday life has become a series of challenges, each decision weighed down by the fear of making things worse. The unresolved nature of our financial and relational issues looms over me like a dark cloud, casting shadows on moments that should be filled with joy. Ultimately, this experience has forced me to reflect deeply on my boundaries, my values, and what I truly need from a relationship. While the path forward remains unclear, I know I must find a way to address these issues, not just for the sake of our relationship, but for my own mental and emotional well-being. As the situation continues to unravel, I find myself standing at a crossroads, contemplating measures I never thought I'd have to consider. Every effort to address the issues has been met with resistance or unforeseen complications, leaving me feeling powerless and exhausted. The thought of making drastic changes looms larger each day, overshadowing any remaining hope that things might improve naturally. In moments of quiet reflection, the idea of ending the relationship with Emily surfaces with increasing frequency. The notion terrifies me. Breaking up would not only dismantle the life we've built together but also alter my world in ways I can hardly imagine. The fear of loneliness and the uncertainty of life without her weigh heavily on my mind. Yet the alternative, remaining in a relationship fraught with unresolved issues and growing resentment, feels equally daunting. I've also considered more pragmatic solutions, such as setting strict financial boundaries or even moving into a more affordable living situation to regain some control over my finances. But each option comes with its own set of fears and potential fallout. What if these changes only drive a deeper wedge between Emily and me? What if I end up losing more than I gain? Social stigma also plays a part in my hesitation. I worry about how friends and family might perceive these drastic decisions, whether they'll view me as someone who gave up too easily or failed to manage my relationship responsibly. The emotional toll of contemplating such measures is immense, leaving me feeling trapped in a loop of indecision. Despite the turmoil, I recognize that inaction is no longer an option. I'm torn between the desire to preserve what we have and the pressing need to protect my own well-being. As I grapple with these conflicting emotions, the future remains uncertain. I'm left wondering whether the drastic measures I fear might be the very steps I need to take to find peace and clarity in the chaos. Reflecting on this journey has been both eye-opening and exhausting. I find myself at a pivotal moment, torn between holding on to a relationship that once brought me joy and the pressing need to prioritize my own emotional and financial well-being. The weight of uncertainty is heavy, and the fear of making the wrong choice looms large. Yet the thought of continuing in this unresolved cycle is equally daunting. I'm reaching out to this community in the hope that someone might have insights or experiences to share. Perhaps you've faced similar crossroads and can offer guidance on how to navigate this complex web of emotions and decisions. Is there a way to address these issues without sacrificing the bond we've built? Or is it time to accept that some relationships, despite the best intentions, may not be meant to last? I'm open to any advice or strategies that might help me find clarity, whether it's personal stories, words of encouragement, or even hard truths. I believe every perspective could illuminate a path I haven't considered. I recognize that sometimes simply voicing our struggles can bring a semblance of relief, even if no clear solution emerges. Knowing that I'm not alone in this uncertainty offers a measure of comfort. I appreciate your support and wisdom as I navigate these turbulent waters, seeking a resolution that aligns with my values and aspirations for a healthier, more fulfilling future.